Here we go.
What makes the human brain unique? Outside of just its size, development of the cerebral cortex, and its unique cognitive and behavioral capabilities, what specific distinction differentiates our brain from that of every other living organism on our planet and allows human society to not only manipulate the environment around us, but also the animals living within it? Since when it comes to the cerebrum, total mass isn't proportional to brain power, as the sperm whale technically has the largest brain in our animal kingdom, weighing in up to 9 kilograms or 20 pounds, significantly larger than the human brain, which weighs around only 1.4 kilograms or 3 pounds. Though we don't see whales coming out the cut and taking over the world anytime soon, do we? Although we have significantly larger brains than that of other primates, this size increase is disproportionately reflected in the cerebral cortex, which is involved in higher order functions like planning, reasoning, and language, particularly the association areas showing remarkable expansions in humans. This expansion allows for the increased complexity of neural networks and the integration of information from differing brain regions, which in turn is crucial for advanced cognitive functions. But this is old news. What really happened during the hundreds of thousands of years of evolution Homo sapiens have gone through to get to where we are today? This very question has stumped scientists and historians alike for decades now, and ever-continuing research have led to the development of 4 analytically backed hypotheses proposed to explain the significant jump in human brain development during our evolution, along with another somewhat rooted in pseudoscience, though nonetheless have taken a hold of the minds of many, whom even suggest the surgical implementation of advanced genetics from alien life forms known as the Anunnaki. Now, if that sounds just a little too heebie-jeebies for you, I don't blame you. Though, with the constant discoveries of new geological findings and historical implications over the last few years, many legitimizing some of the claims made by these more obscure propositions. Though, this still doesn't get us to the bottom of what makes our brain so eccentric. The social brain hypothesis and cultural intelligence hypothesis both stand firm as key factors for contrast. Though, when you look at how complex social structures are in elephants, dolphins, gorillas, and even lions, where social learning have always significantly boosted the acquisition and transmission of knowledge and skills, socialization seems more like an evolutionary product rather than the definitive reason for our superiority. Some researchers argue for ecological challenges and foraging demands as arguable causes, as early humans face increasingly unpredictable and diverse environments, along with a shift towards higher quality, often more difficult to acquire food sources like meat and extracted foods. But any city-dwelling animal will tell you better scavenging runs aren't leading to raccoons' inevitable world domination. Language development has also been stemmed as a defining playmaker for shaping cognitive and neurological systems. However, parrots, dolphins, and whales, who also have language systems, cannot accomplish nearly the same feats as humanity. New research just this year coming out of the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine has shed new light on the age-old question. A few weeks ago, on August 15, 2025, scientists for UC San Diego made a historic discovery as part of their investigation into human accelerated regions, or HARs, which are the sections of the human genome having accumulated an unusually high level of mutations as humans have evolved. There's an enormous amount of scientific interest in HAR's research, as they're hypothesized to play an essential role in conferring human-specific traits, while also having links to neurodevelopment disorders like autism. Why researchers believe that HARs grant human-specific traits is because they've undergone rapid changes in their genetic sequences since we split from our closest living relative, the chimpanzee, approximately 5 million years ago. UC San Diego researchers have now identified one particular HAR gene called HAR123, which appears to be instrumental in shaping the human brain into what it is today. Rather than providing the instructions for building proteins, determining our distinct traits as a living organism like all other genes, HAR123 is instead a type of molecular volume control, if you will, controlling which genes are activated, how much they're activated, and at what times they're activated during an organism's development. We didn't just find any old gene segment, we might have unlocked the master control of our entire neurological development, the implications of which may just change the course of humanity as we know it.
They thought it was over. But evolution heroes of science.
The reasonings for humans' neurological evolution over the past hundreds of thousands of years have been deliberated for as long as biological study itself has been around. Though, as we know, each prediction having its own sets of precarities holding humanity back from the definitive answer for just how our brains have advanced to such degrees until today. The HAR123 segment found by our team of researchers itself is not a gene, but instead controls the degree to which certain DNA is transcribed, making them transcriptional enhancers, deciding if, when, and how much of each gene is transcribed. HAR123 stands as the motherboard for gene activation, primarily during the beginning of an organism's development. Through its role as a transcriptional enhancer, HAR123 promotes development of neural progenitor cells, which are the same ones that give rise to the two main types of brain cells, neurons and glial cells. HAR123 influences the ratio of these brain cells while simultaneously promoting neural progenitor cell development, which in turn create those same cells. Ergo, HAR123 essentially induces the advanced human trait of cognitive flexibility, or the ability to unlearn and replace previous knowledge when necessary. The same sense is exemplified with our understanding of other mammals' shortened attention spans. What humanity sees as a lack of concurrent memory storage may very well be an inability to unlearn and replace certain memories or apprehensions. As for any beneficial genetic mutation, there's always a natural selection-based reason for its inception. The need to unlearn certain behaviors quickly may come from a need to adapt to changing environments and resources. Along with the habitual nomadic nature of prehistoric humans, the gradual migrational tradition of our ancestors across areas such as the Bering Land Bridge made it so the losing of skills irrelevant to our new surroundings may have been ever beneficial. The Bering Land Bridge, or known as Beringia, was a landmass that connected what would be modern-day Alaska and Siberia during the last ice age. This massive land bridge connecting Pangaea, North America with Asia formed due to global temperatures being so low that the majority of Earth's water was locked up in glacial pockets, causing sea levels to dip significantly. Today, a body of water separates the same area where the land bridge once stood, the Bering Strait. It not only allows humans but animals and plants to migrate between the two continents as well, only adding to the theory of shared HAR123 variant in traditionally migratory animals. From humpback whales, Canadian geese, to even Chinook salmon, all exhibit their own migration practices. Though differing from land animals, the lack of diversity in environment, both aerial and aquatically, may give way to less significant findings. When looking at land animals such as mammoths, bison, muskoxen, lions, and brown bears, whom accompanied our ancestors across the Bering Land Bridge, most of those organisms have not survived to tell the tale, leaving us with only lions and brown bears to potentially exhibit similar traits. Such a small divergence in literal genetics, yet after generations and generations of adapting and modifying to our surroundings, cognitive flexibility may be the key to our brain's compounding development. The UC San Diego research also offers a molecular explanation for some of the radical changes that have occurred in our craniums over the course of our Darwinistic journey, supported by the author's findings that the human version of HAR123 exerts differing molecular and cellular effects than that of the chimpanzee in both stem cells as well as neuron precursor cells when studied within a petri dish. This gap in our current understanding of HAR123 naturally gives way for many supporters of more pseudoscience beliefs of our evolutionary origins, though we do now know the nomenclature of what led to our difference from other primates, and even how it works in restructuring our genetic system. How it came to be so different from the other variants provides support for possible external manipulation at play, whether that be from advanced extraterrestrial life or even a mutational outcome from natural selection. Something considerable occurred in the middle of our timeline, and now it's up to us to get to the bottom of it. And who knows? Recent archaeological research indicates that some groups of chimpanzees, bearded capuchin monkeys, and long-tailed chimps, some of our closest living relatives in the animal kingdom, beginning to use stone tools self-created, not to mention the regular use and transmitting of behaviors socially within neighboring groups. Similar to humans thousands of years ago, from chimpanzees using hammers and anvil stones to crack open nuts, to capuchin monkeys and chimps using stones to act as crabs and snails, Researchers even have seen primates utilize stones for digging for tubers and other buried resources. Now, whether you chalk that up to socialization from neighboring human societies, visually or physically, there's no argument that other primates around the world are beginning to evolve at increasingly significant rates. Regardless, they've made it their own and have begun passing it down within groups. All this to say, our cousins may have unlocked their very own HAR123. The ancient Sumerians, a civilization flourishing within Mesopotamia, the region nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, from around 6500 BC to approximately 1750 BC. Recognized for their groundbreaking contributions in various fields, from developing one of the earliest known writing systems, cuneiform, to the devising of a numeral system based on the number 60, influencing modern timekeeping even to this day. For Christ's sake, they even invented the wheel! Yeah, it wasn't Flintstones, Fred or Barney. Let that sink in.
Oh, boy, good old Sunday. Nothing to do but lazy around and read the Sunday paper.
Revolutionizing transportation and pottery production, the Sumerians even developed advanced irrigation systems, the plow, many metalworking techniques, as well as the sailboat. From an ancient context, the Sumerians were ahead of their time from countless frames of mind. Even more than 7,000 years ago, with the degree of technological innovation, they nonetheless excelled in monumental architecture too. Particularly their impressive ziggurats, which are tiered temples built to honor their gods, each containing arches and vaults in construction, having a polytheistic religion with anthropomorphic gods representing natural forces and city-states. Temples and deity worship played significant roles in their daily lives and governance, and majority of Sumerians believed in a gloomy afterlife regardless of earthly actions. You might be asking yourself, how does this have anything to do with the HAR123 gene? I'm glad you asked. HAR123 proves not only of the existence of a regulatory central hub for neural mutational development, but also leaves just enough room for another more pseudo-thesis to be legitimized. We now know HAR123 has undergone highly isolated mutations to statistically significant degrees proportional to all other genes in the body. Some would say this feels more intentionally manipulated, as if someone with the knowledge went in and genetically altered it for exponential growth, knowing the rapid nitrous evolution, if you will, that would follow. The ancient Sumerians believed this very idea. In their earliest writings, a race of deities described as descendants of On, or their representation of the sky god, along with Kai, the earth goddess, with the primary function of decreeing the fates of humanity. Known as the Anunnaki, directly translating to princely blood or seed of Anu, while often considered the highest gods, in many accounts they were judges, creators, and maintainers of balance between the heavens, earth, and the underworld. Though many modern interpretations of Anunnaki are often depicted as reptilian-like beings, as our society's fascination with all things Jurassic and prehistoric alike continue to fuel intrigue, ancient Mesopotamian sources, however, suggest they might have been humanoid in form. A popular theory even suggests the Anunnaki in actuality to be an advanced extraterrestrial species who visited Earth in ancient times. With technology Sumerians couldn't begin to comprehend, it would be natural for these beings to be portrayed as divine. According to this theory, now coined the ancient astronaut theory, Anunnaki came from a planet called Nibiru, which orbits close to Earth every 3,600 years or so. Facing environmental issues on their native planet, they allegedly came to Earth in search of gold, which when pulverized and injected into the atmosphere can drastically slow down greenhouse gases and the dire impacts of global warming. After arriving on Earth, they had the pick of the litter when it came to which organisms they wanted to evolve to accomplish their bidding. And it just so happened that ancient Homo sapiens won that lottery pick.
With the 55th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Bronny James.
The anticipation has been building for weeks as to where we would hear Bronny's name called.
Our society's ever captivation with gold and all things shiny in some ways proves this hypothesis. This contact and genetic alteration are said to have influenced the development of human cultures, technologies, religions, and biology. Having gained prominence in the mid-20th century as a legitimate theory for our origins, particularly through Erich von Daniken's book Chariots of the Gods in 1968, in which he asserted that ancient humans lacked the ability to build massive structures or understand complex astronomy, suggesting extraterrestrials provided the necessary knowledge and tools.
Beings. They shall bear the burden of labor.
Prepare yourself, for tonight we embark on a dark journey into the unknown vastness of the past.
Other supporters like Zecharia Sitchin interpreted ancient Sumerian texts to claim the Anunnaki as these very beings which provided us with such tools. Though the only difference, he believed the use of genetic engineering was at play, as the Anunnaki had clearly created us to be highly intelligent laborers with the sole purpose of gathering gold. Turned us into frickin' pirates.
You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of him.
Are you ready? Oh no. Yeah. Again, not doing that. Over the years, this theory has developed to the explanation for many of the puzzling unanswered questions of our murky past. Though with little concrete written evidence from thousands of years ago, the ancient astronaut theory still in some ways fits right into the equation. Structures such as the Great Pyramid of Giza, Stonehenge, the Nazca Lines, and Pumapunku are cited as examples of construction supposedly surpassing the capabilities of ancient societies, therefore clearly suggesting extraterrestrial involvement. There are also depictions of flying machines and advanced tech in ancient art and carvings all across the globe, interpreted as representations of spacecraft, non-human beings, and advanced technologies, further incentivizing the claim. Stories of gods descending from the sky and influencing human affairs are littered throughout all cultures, from ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Chinese, Mayan, and even Hindus, all illustrating these divine figures bringing wisdom, miracles, or even establish themselves as rulers. From the feathered serpent god in Mesoamerica to the primordial sky god Uranus in Greece. Even Vishnu's avatars in Hinduism, all from completely distinct corners of the world, but telling the same exact story. Many point to humanity's own cargo cults in Melanesia as further evidence for this case, or the phenomenon referring to a set of religious movements that emerged in societies with limited technological advancement, often following interactions with more technologically advanced cultures. The Melanesians observed Europeans receiving manufactured goods like clothing, food, and tools. Without the knowledge of industrial production, they believed these items audibly heard as cargo were sent by gods or ancestral spirits. They aimed to acquire this cargo, believing rituals could induce ancestors to deliver wealth and abundance and mimic the behaviors and customs of the technologically advanced outsiders. Building replica airstrips and airplanes out of natural minerals, performing military drills, and incorporating Christian elements into their rituals. Following World War II in the South Pacific, as islanders witnessed the influx of goods and tech brought by Japanese and American soldiers, cargo cults again became particularly noticeable. Comparably, our Sumerian ancestors represent similar isolated cultures whom would interpret advanced alien technology as divine gifts. The HAR123 findings from our researching team would only validate these theories, providing the exact piece of DNA used during genetic engineering. Arguably, if knowledge of its ability to notably expand the level of neural development allowed in mammalian brains, this could be what was triggered those hundreds of thousands of years ago. That would explain the human drive for gold, even though statistically, it only stands as the 6th rarest element on our planet, after osmium, rhodium, platinum, iridium, and palladium. But we don't see much jewelry made by these minerals, and definitely not to the demand that gold entails. Nevertheless, there still isn't any definitive evidence for these theories, and in some ways brings to question the legitimacy of ancient human ingenuity altogether. Regardless of the lack of written evidence for some of these megalithic structures we see across our planet, resourcefulness and creativity have been at the heart of our species since we were still moles just waiting to evolve into the primates of today. You can fact check me on that. Oh wait. With enough inner incentive and time on our hands, we as a collective society could probably still build a mesmerizing megalithic structure even today. It would probably take about 100 years and thousands of deaths along the way, but hey, people thousands of years down the line are gonna be like, dang, I wonder who had the balls to build that? But since we have a digital footprint now, they could probably just ask their wrist and it'll let them know we made that and how. Kinda takes the fun out of things, if you ask me.
Honor and recognition in case of success.
Before HAR123 was discovered, many historians and researchers alike suggested that the evolution of larger and more complex brains, especially that of the neocortex, was driven by demands of navigating complex social environments and maintaining larger social groups. The ability to understand and predict the behavior of others, form alliances, and engage in cooperative activities would have been advantageous for survival and reproduction. Known as the social brain hypothesis, first proposed in the early 1970s, coined by neuroscientist Leslie Brothers in 1990, though still ever relevant, does not tell the full story of our past, I'm afraid. Especially given that many other complex organisms exhibit similar behaviors. Dolphins, our highly intelligent aquatic friends, have their own extremely complex social structure, in some ways mirroring that of our own. Renowned for having a highly complex system of social dynamics through what we call the fission-fusion society, where groups of dolphins live in pods, which can vary in size from a few to a few hundred of individuals, according to Discover magazine. Being dynamic groups rather than static, these societies incur frequent moving of dolphins between subgroups and form both short-term and long-term relationships, much like humans do. In other words, dolphins like Flipper wake up in the morning to their long-term families, then leave off into the ocean to take part in work, school, and friend groups, if you will. With each known to have unique personalities, influencing their social interactions and roles within the pod, studies even show that bolder dolphins might play greater roles in spreading information within groups. Traveling down the timeline, we get to 2007, when the cultural intelligence hypothesis was proposed. Building on the ideas of the prior, where learning from others significantly boosted the acquisition and transmission of knowledge, in turn driving the evolution of greater intelligence and larger brains, it suggests that a co-evolutionary relationship where improved social learning ability also improved individual learning ability and favored larger brains that could handle more information. Coined in 2003, then later officially published in 2007 by Herman and others, this hypothesis hiked up the current understanding at the time, though resounding flaws still could be made. When looking at dolphins, they too perform social learning through the creation of culture, the behaviors exhibited through the use of underwater vocalizations, mainly whistles and clicks, along with body language and communication, action coordination and group cohesion maintenance, all suggesting social learning and the development of distinct cultures within pods. With scientists at the Dolphin Research Center in Grassy Key, Florida, recording specific hunting techniques being passed down through generations within a pod distinct from others in the local area, each dolphin has a unique signature whistle similar to our human voices, which help identify individuals within groups. Even having been observed to use vocal signals to coordinate cooperative actions in hunting, among other rituals. When looking at the other two main theories for our neurodevelopment, Darwinism along with natural selection remains the most traditional proposal for neuromutational headway, as throughout our history there have been a selective pressure for enabled cognitive abilities. Planning, problem solving, along with sophisticated foraging techniques have not only aided us in our survival, but also have adapted to modern society and still stand as beneficial traits to possess in our digital landscape. Language's facilitation of not only communication, but social structure and cultural transmission further drove brain expansion and specialization of brain regions like Broca's and Wernicke's areas. Crucial for language processing, located in the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain, the Broca's intuitively correlates to speech production and articulation, while the Wernicke's area mainly involves itself with the comprehension of audio-language related stimuli. These long-standing beliefs of our neuronal jump made way back in our evolutionary timeline hold precedence over that of the newer research being made, including that of HAR123. I remember this. Similar to the fights many archaeologists are facing against their counterparts, arguing for the traditional beliefs made by predecessors, as with stances like Göbekli Tepe, a prehistoric hilltop sanctuary in southeastern Turkey, renowned for being the world's oldest known megalithic structure. Its very existence and proposed age challenges existing theories about the origins of civilization and human social complexity itself, pushing the current timeline of when humans first shifted from nomadic hunters and gatherers over to the rural feudalistic lifestyles consisting of cities and massive groups of people living in close proximity with one another. Göbekli Tepe predates what was previously believed to be the earliest evidence of complex societies and monumental construction, suggesting even the social organization and ritual practices may have driven the development of agriculture rather than the previously believed other way around. With the site's massive stone pillars, some weighing up to 50 tons each, demonstrating an impressive level of engineering and construction skills that were previously thought to have emerged much later in human history. Though many archaeologists not only do not support the idea of rewriting history, but straight up blatantly ignore Göbekli Tepe altogether, choosing to stick to primacy over legitimate facts. This surprisingly is a common trend in much of the scientific community. When it comes to historic or even prehistoric findings, new discoveries of which mitigate the hundreds of thousands of dollars of grant money obtained through prior research, not to mention in some cases scholarly humiliation, will surely face much backlash and lobbying against. As to why still today, even though Göbekli Tepe was first initially found in 1963 during a survey by researchers from Istanbul University and the University of Chicago, its true significance wasn't recognized until 1994, and excavations began the following year and continuing all the way to this day. Throughout each step of the way, top researchers have argued for its illegitimacy in an attempt to protect their own scholarly image and have kept its importance under wraps, so to speak. With little research and surveying of surrounding areas, along with similar patterns with lost civilizations in our Amazonian rainforests, there still may be a chance the HAR123 breakthrough doesn't stick, rotting away on the shelves of another nameless museum with no subsequent research in sight. But that's worst case scenario. You can hang up that call to your local politician now. There's no need. And long-tailed macaques. And long-tailed macaques, some are... And long-tailed... From the feathered From the feathered serp... brother. Brother. From the feathered... Jesus Christ. Outside of just its size, development of the cerebral cortex...